Calling to order the meeting of the Parks, Recreation, Human Services, and Public Safety Committee, Council Committee. I'd like to recognize our committee members. Susan Honda is here. Lydia Cefa-Dawson will be joining us very shortly. We also have Council President Linda Kochmar on the stand, as well as Council Member Han Tran and Council Member Paul McDaniels.
Lydia's online.
Oh, Lydia's online
I said she was parking.
now, and Lydia's online and may be joining us physically as well. So anyway, all right. I believe to start with, we have some public comment. Let's see.
First person is Ken Stark.
Ken Stark, and there was, okay, Ken Stark, let's start with you, Ken.
Thank you. I appreciate coming up first. My name is Ken Stark. I am currently the chair of the Human Services Commission, but I am not here speaking for the Human Services Commission. I am speaking for myself. And I want to speak briefly to the Human Services Commission budget that's going to be presented tonight. I'm hopeful that you all support that. I want to let you know that between the staff and the volunteers on the Human Services Commission, we spent well over 100 hours putting those recommendations together. It's not like we're sitting around with a pot of money and saying, hey, who's your buddy? Who wants to get this money? And we say, I want George to get it. No, it doesn't work that way. It's very, very, very strict in terms of a NOFA, Notice of Funds Available. Organizations have to apply. There's a lot of requirements for them to apply. And then we go through a process of scoring those. And we use Robert's Rules of Order, much like you do, to vote to come up with those recommendations. Now, that being said, there is one thing in there that I want to speak to that is challenging and that is of concern, I know, to some of you and community members, and that's the Day Center. The Day Center is a program that currently we fund only $40,000 for that program. The proposal tonight is $50,000. That they provide services that people who are homeless need. So think about yourself if you were homeless. If you were homeless, I mean truly homeless, and you didn't have any place to go to, where would you go to the bathroom? Where would you wash your clothes? Where would you brush your teeth? Where would you clean your sleeping bag if it was filthy dirty? If somebody gave you some food but it needed to be cooked, where would you go to cook it? You certainly aren't supposed to start a fire in the parking lot. Well, all of those basic services are services that the Day Center does provide. Now, the downside to the Day Center situation is that they're not open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We don't have that kind of money. So they're only open Monday through Friday, and they're only open 7 hours a day. And the contract that they have doesn't say they're responsible for the parking lot. It says that they're responsible for a set of services. And those services are being met. And it's a real struggle to deal with the people in the parking lot. So my recommendation to the City Council and to this subcommittee is we really need to look at solving the problem. And the problem with the people that are in the parking lot is, one, addiction. That's only one problem. Then there's mental illness. And then there's developmental disabilities. And then there's a host of other issues that are going on. And I'm going to, can I speak a little bit more?
Go ahead for a moment.
Okay.
Ken.
That we really need to take a look at not just dealing with the symptoms. We need to take a look at the solution. And the solution is we need detox. We don't have any detox in Federal Way. King County has limited detox. We need residential alcohol drug treatment. We don't have any residential alcohol drug treatment in Federal Way. King County has limited capacity. We don't have any mental health residential treatment. King County has limited capacity. We don't have any housing adequate for folks that's like tiny house villages or anything like that. We don't have an emergency shelter. We do have some family stuff that Fusion runs, but it's very limited. So we really need to figure out how we're going to solve this. And we can't do it alone. We need the federal government, the state government, the county government, and we need the 16 cities, of which we are one, that work with human services activities trying to solve this problem so we're not just bumping it from one city to the other. So I would recommend that the city council and the mayor pull together the mayors and the city councils of those 16 cities, along with key staff and the federal partners. And we take a look at what can we do. It's going to be a long-term thing, and it's going to cost money. But Federal Way can't do it alone. And I certainly would be willing to participate in some of that. And I'm pretty familiar with those systems, having worked in them for 40 years. So with that, I hope you pass the budget recommendations from the Human Services Commission. And then we can work on also looking at cleaning up that parking lot. And that's going to have to do with, I think, your city codes on loitering and littering, and also looking at the contract obligations that you have with the day center. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ken. Right. Right. I understand we have some public comment online.
The first person we have is Ganya Thomas.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you very much for providing an opportunity to support the renaming of Alderbrook Park. In Federal Way, Tacoma, and throughout Puget Sound, you can find John and Mary Kana's footprint politically, socially, and culturally. Recognition of their contributions in Federal Way is long overdue. And as a descendant of John and Mary Kana, I fully support the renaming of Alderbrook to Kana Park, along with a statue and plaque. Thank you.
Right, thank you. And next?
The next person is Maisha Barnett.
All right, Maisha, go ahead.
Hi. Hi, my name is Maisha Barnett, and I am a descendant of John and Mary Kana. Settling in Tacoma and Federal Way in the late 1800s, they were trailblazing Pacific Northwest Black pioneers who left an indelible mark on their community. Active in local and state politics, John held several appointed and elected political positions and championed social policies such as the 1890.
Did
we lose her?
Maisha, you're muted for a moment. Are you back?
Okay, sorry, I didn't realize that. What is the last thing you heard?
The 1800s, yeah.
Okay. Settling in Tacoma and Federal Way in the late 1800s, they were trailblazing Pacific Northwest Black pioneers who left an indelible mark on their community. Active in local and state politics, John held several appointed and elected political positions and championed social policies such as the 1890 Public Accommodations Act. On their 157-acre homestead in what today is Federal Way, John and Mary lived on and cultivated the land over a period of 5 years. They also built 3 structures and a 2.5-mile road. In 1887, they hosted the Adelaide Precinct polling place at their home. John also partnered with A.R. Still and O.L. Still and advocated for the widening of Military Road. For these reasons and more, I support Mayor Jim Farrell's proposal to rename Alderbrook Park to Kana Park, along with interpretive signage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barnett. Is there any other public comment?
No, there's not.
Okay. I would first like to recognize that council member and committee member Lydia Seffa-Dawson is now here in person rather than just online. Thank you, Lydia. And the next item, item A, approval of minutes.
I've got a question. I'd like to talk about that park. I didn't know you had to sign up. And I live right on the edge of that park.
Okay, go ahead, and afterwards give your name go ahead to the dais, or the stand, and afterwards give your name and information to Mary, for the record. And if you can state your name and her also.
My name's Ed Taff, T-A-F-F. I've lived on the edge of that park since '85, before all them other homes were built around there. And I'm so tired of hearing streets renamed, forts renamed. And it's just like, when I first heard about this, I thought, why rename this park? It's got alder all over it. And then I read that man's history, and I'm thinking that park needs to be changed to Donner Park. And I think that needs to be a monument there listing all his tributes that he did for this state and for this county. That's all I wanted to say, is like, I'm the only one that's been there as long as anyone. There's one other neighbor of mine that's been there as long as I have. So I'm all for renaming that park.
All right, thank you, thank you. And I'm also right there by it, and since about '86, so just right after you. And so I believe that John has the form for you to fill out, then you can just give it back. So if no other public comment, we will go ahead with the approval of minutes.
I move approval of the minutes.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. It is unanimous. All right, next, item B, resolution renaming Alderbrook Park to Conna Park. And our city administrator, Brian Davis.
All right, thank you, Chair Walsh, members of the committee and council. I'm here to present a proposal by the mayor to rename Alderbrook Park to Conna Park. And I really could not have expressed it better than his descendants who commented earlier, whom I've worked with. I've had the pleasure of working with both Ganya and Maisha on this project. And we're happy to move it forward for your consideration. The proposal any naming proposal in the city has to meet the criteria that the council set forth in its naming policy. And the renaming of Alderbrook Park in honor of John and Mary Conna meets that criteria on a number of levels, but two of the main ones are that it celebrates persons or individuals who have contributed significantly to the city's history or past, and also, secondly, presents the issue of diversity. The Connas were African Americans. They had significant challenges in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and they overcame them to make some incredible contributions to what we now enjoy today. And so just naming those few are reasons that the mayor is supportive of renaming Alderbrook Park. Is my time up? Do I need to?
That's it.
That's my hint. I'm talking too much. I think it is noteworthy, however, to point out real quick that let me share. I don't need to share this. So the Conna homestead was roughly this square right here. So first down to 336th, over to 21st, and then up to 320th. Excuse me. That was the approximate location of their homestead in what is now Federal Way. And Alderbrook Park here's Silver Lake Elementary. Alderbrook Park is right across the street here. And then all of this wetland area is part of the trail system that feeds into Alderbrook Park. And so we felt it was, we had a number of proposals that we were discussing with the family, and eventually landed on a park renaming, and discovered that this park was in fact on land that the Connas used to homestead. So it was we felt it was very appropriate to submit this proposal for the council's consideration to rename Alderbrook Park in their honor. Another requirement of any renaming is that we have to, whether it's the city or an individual that wants to propose a renaming, we have to provide a budget for the renaming, because some renamings can be quite complicated. This one is not. It's a park that has a sign that dates back to the original logo of the city, not the one we have now, and so it's time to replace the sign anyway. So we don't consider a new sign to be part of this budget to rename the park. So it passes that test. One thing that we are working as a city and with the family on is an appropriate tribute to the Kanas at the park site, to both John and Mary Kana, that is still in the works. So the renaming is just the proposal that you're seeing now. It's not to consider any type of monument or anything like that. We will be doing that, so just so you know, and that is forthcoming. But we at least wanted to get the renaming before the council to take care of that as soon as we can, because as was mentioned before, we believe it's past due. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
All right, thank you. My home is right there. I live in part of what was the Kana homestead long ago, and I agree, it is very, very appropriate. Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. So I also agree with this. However, I wish that we could have gotten a school, Silver Lake, named after the Kana family. I think that would have been a great honor for someone who valued education. I understand that wasn't up to us as a city, but my kids were at Silver Lake when we first opened, and I was one of their first PTA presidents, and it's named after the books of
Laura Ingalls Wilder.
yeah, Laura Ingalls Wilder. It's not named after anything here locally. And I think it would have been a great honor to name a building where young children are educated after such a amazing person and family. But so we'll go with the park and know that the family's happy with that, and keep the park maintained.
Yeah, I think that just because we're naming the park Kana Park doesn't preclude the school district from getting on with it and
I wish.
naming you know, at least at some time in the future. I mean, Laura Ingalls Wilder, all of my kids went to Silver Lake Elementary as well, and from the time that it first opened. And you know, Laura Ingalls Wilder was a great person, but no local connection. And John and Mary Kana definitely deserve that. So I think it'd be something great to continue to encourage the school district to take some action.
Yeah.
Right. Councilmember Rasefa Dawson.
Yeah, actually, that's why I had my light on to support this idea, and I think we can propose it to the school board, and those of you who meet with them regularly, I think can actually tell them what our desire is, and let's see how we can support this and move it forward.
Brian, can you explain why the school district was not on board with this?
Yes.
Because I know it was presented to them already.
Yes, thank you for the question, Councilmember Honda. Your desire to rename a school was actually at the top of the list of the families. They pulled the family members because they don't all live here in the Seattle area, so they pulled the family members, and the renaming of a school was at the top of their list. And so to honor their polling results, we went to the school district and discussed this with them. And I don't know how long that the district has had a policy of not renaming schools, but they have currently one in place, apparently, that they are not renaming schools. They, however, did say that they,
Yeah, they've
Yeah,
already
they
renamed the school.
recently renamed Totem School,
Yeah,
Totem Middle
Evergreen.
School, so.
yeah, and I don't know the specifics
Yeah.
of the renaming prohibition that they have. It might be some, you know, because Totem is, I don't know. I don't know the specifics of the prohibition, but that's what they did indicate to us, and I don't want to speculate any further than that. They were gracious and did say that they would honor the Kana family in incorporating some of their history into the curriculum that the school teaches about Washington State history, and that Federal Way plays, or excuse me, the Kanas play an important role in Federal Way's history. And so they, and I just got information from Ms. Barnett on that, and so we'll be working on getting that curriculum worked into the schools so that they can learn about the Kanas.
All right, thank you.
Would that be every school in Federal Way or just Silver Lake?
It was, my understanding is it's every school, it's not just Silver
Good.
Lake.
Thank you.
Right. Any other, Council President? Oh, okay. All right, this is set to go on the business agenda. If it, the unanimity of it, I think it go on the consent agenda. However, the import of it dictates that it should go on the business agenda.
Yeah, there's really no question in our mind that it should be business, although this is a pretty straightforward motion on the council's part that could easily be taken in consent, but we wanted to, this is a big deal, and we want everyone to know about it. So we put it, we were recommending it go to business.
Yes, all right. Do we have a motion?
I move to forward option 1 to the October 15th, 2025 business agenda for approval.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. It passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to share my appreciation for you sharing how you felt before and the fact that you did change your mind about changing the name to Kona family. I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your outlook about the process. So thank you so much.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
Next, item C, project completion acceptance, Sahali Court resurfacing. And Mr. George Richan.
Good evening. All right, is that on? Great. Good evening, committee and council members. My name is George Richan. I'm your Parks and Facilities Manager. And tonight before you, I have information regarding project completion acceptance for Sahali Court resurfacing project. A little background on the project. In September of '23, council gave approval for Parks to pursue an RCO grant for local park maintenance for the resurfacing of the sports courts at Sahali Park. In November of '23, RCO awarded the grant for $89,683 to the city of Federal Way for the project. Spring of '24, council approved acceptance of the grant and awarded the contract to the King County Directors Association for the resurfacing in the amount of $89,683. Contractor started resurfacing project on 7/29 of this year and finished the work on 8/12. So what did they do? First off, they pressure washed and cleaned the courts. Next, they went in, they filled and they floated, and they leveled any of the low spots. Next, they basically did a seal coat on it, and finally, they painted and lined it. There are the tennis courts prior to resurfacing on the left, and then after resurfacing on the right. I found out the industry standard for the pickleball lines were light blue instead of yellow, so we changed direction on that. The pickleballers seem to like that. And the basketball court prior to resurfacing and the basketball after resurfacing, that definitely, we chose to go with a little different color on this. I talked to Kevin, our rec manager, and he seemed to like it too. The kids out there, when I asked them that day when I took the picture, they loved the way the contrast of the keys pop out from the rest of the court. So the policy question for you, should the city council accept the completion of the Sahali Court resurfacing and approve release of $89,764.51 for payment of the contracted work? There's a difference there of $81.51. That is the increase of tax from last year to this year. So the options would be number 1, to approve the proposed completion of the Sahali Court resurfacing. Number 2, do not approve proposed completion of Sahali Court resurfacing and provide direction to staff. Mayor's recommendation is option 1. With that, do I have any questions?
All right. Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. So the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office, RCO, at one time had provided the funding for Still Lake Park, which is why the maintenance yard isn't there. I had asked at that time if there was a list of parks or property in Federal Way that has any RCO money, and I was wondering if I could still get that list.
We can get that for you, yes.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Seeing no other questions, do we have a motion?
I move to forward the proposed completion of Sahali Court resurfacing to the October 15, 2024 consent agenda for approval.
Do we have a second?
Oh, sure. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item D, Center Stage Theater Rental Agreement. Mr. Clemens.
Bless you. Good evening, Chair Walsh, council and committee members. My name is David Clemens. I'm the manager of the Dumas Space Center. Tonight, I bring before you my recommendation to move the Center Stage Theater rental agreement for consent at the next council meeting. The primary difference here between what is current and what we're moving into is purely the length of the agreement. This will be a 10-year theater rental agreement for Center Stage.
Okay,
And I'd love to take any questions.
all right, all right. And currently, it's been a 5-year?
Typically, it's a 4-year.
4-year, okay, so changing from 4-year to 10-year. All right, Councilmember Asefa Dawson.
Yeah, so for 10 years, you know, we have the condition and everything. What happens if we have the money and we want to upgrade the facility or anything? Is that something that would be considered, that would be in the consideration for this contract?
Clarify for me. I don't quite grasp what you're
So
asking.
let's say we're doing some work on the facility itself,
Okay.
which would impact their performance or their contract. So do we modify it there, or is it something we can add in the contract to where they'll work with us, we'll work with them?
We would need to give them plenty of notice so that they can adjust whatever performance schedule they might be having. And that would be something that would happen with well advanced notice.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilmember Daniels.
My only concern is 10 years is a long time. I could see 5 years, but 10 years just seems like it's a long commitment, considering like I said, we don't know what we're going to be doing with that building in 10 years. And then I'm not sure if we also talk about doing renovations. If we upgrade the AV or we do anything to that theater, that provides it to be a more lucrative endeavor at that point that we put money into it. Does that mean this locks in no matter what kind of upgrades we do? They'll get the benefits of the upgrade with the set price that we're setting right now?
A couple of things. We do have a clause to opt out of the agreement with notice, of course. They would benefit by any additions or renovations to the theater. Part of actually, the driving force behind the length of this agreement is for Center Stage to be able to apply for grant money, obviously for themselves first, but hopefully some of that could be attained for Dumas Bay as well. The grant money in question would be from For Culture. So that is basically the biggest driving factor behind the length.
Is that like a requirement for cultures to have a set time frame, knowing they're not going to be moving from that location?
It is, they require a minimum of a 10-year lease from the organization.
Okay.
So it's basically a direct response to that requirement. It won't benefit us directly per se, but the hope is that they would be able to secure funding.
Okay. Do you know if we currently fund them through another apparatus through the city? Is there
Say
any-
that again.
Does the city currently fund Center Stage through any grants or any other MOUs or any other?
I believe that they are, help me with this.
Yes, I can help you.
Yeah.
They do get contract for services money through Arts Commission. They apply each year
Okay.
for contract for services money, and they're always awarded money.
And it comes through the Arts Commission then?
That comes through the Arts
So as
Commission,
long as the Arts Commission has some kind of money
which they
to
always
use.
do, yes.
Well, at the moment,
At the moment, yeah.
yes. Thank you.
Councilmember Honda.
I too am concerned with the 10 years, so do you know what kind of grant they're applying for? I realize it's for culture, but exactly, do you have any details of the grant?
The grants that they're initially applying for are operational, so that will benefit them, again, directly. The grant money that's theoretical for the center is purely that at the moment, theoretical.
So are they responsible for the upkeep of the seats? And, because some of the seats last time I was in there weren't in the best condition.
Yeah.
It's getting old.
It is getting old.
I mean, how
The,
old is it?
The theater itself
Yeah.
was built in '98, so most of the equipment is original, I would suspect, to the building of the theater, and you are correct. It is definitely in need of repair and maintenance, and there are things looming in the future. I'm currently struggling with audio-video with the theater right now. So I would really encourage them and hope that they apply for grant money that I could use towards the repair and hopefully purchase of new items, yes. But again, that's a theoretical hope.
My daughter spent many hours dancing at Knudsen Family Theater, so it holds a special spot in our family, but it certainly would be worthwhile to see what it needs done to bring it back to its glory days, and what the cost would be, and how we can work towards refurbishing it. And, you know, we put a lot of money into the PAC. I think we need to also remember that this is a theater that we own, and it's a good theater. It's a beautiful size for small groups to perform in. Much better than performing in the PAC for, 700 seats if you're only gonna fill 200 or so. So, but it would be good to, as a council, for us to know what the needs are there to bring it back to its glory.
I don't have an exact answer for you currently, but in our budget presentation, we did mention that, a feasibility study, structural study is something that we would highly be interested in. That would definitely apply to the Knudsen Theater as well. I can tell you up front, yes, there are many chairs that are in need of repair. As I mentioned, the audio-video is struggling, old. I'm currently managing through a pretty serious lighting issue, working towards a solution there. So those are the immediate needs, definitely.
And David,
Oh,
Yes.
just to add to what David was saying for council, as we navigated this contract, we were going back and forth with Center Stage, and we've been in communication with For Culture regarding some of the cultural facilities and equipment upgrades that could be qualified for at Dumas Bay through a 501c3, which, to David's point, is some of the driving force behind the length of the term, to be able to access those funds through For Culture that the city otherwise wouldn't be able to. And Center Stage is actively involved in those conversations as we move forward. Those deadlines will start coming open in about February of next year with the new Doors Open money that's been funneled through King County.
Oh, thank you. I would also say that I have heard great things since you've been there. People are happy with working with you, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Is there any speculation on the amount of grant that they could possibly get?
There isn't a dollar amount at this point in time. We have identified some dollar amounts in regards to the seats and some additional lighting upgrades, and we'll continue to work through those. So as those deadlines come up in 2025, we can assist Center Stage from a city perspective in being able to apply for those grants, showing that they have a 10-year commitment and that this is their primary space. Gives a better chance for them to access those funds to be able to enhance their performances.
Okay. It sounded like there was some, I can certainly see the rationale for the 10 years with getting the grant.
Yeah.
There seems to be some concern among council members on the length. Is there any specific concerns on that would override the benefits of possibly getting grants? Councilmember McDaniels.
I understand the 10-year now. My concern would be, business-minded wise, $10,000 per year over 10 years with the inflation, everything like that, it starts to be less and less money for the city. So unless they get the grants, then we'll actually have less money to put back into the actual theater. It does not have a step increase at all. It's $10,000 per year for the 10 years, right, each year?
There is a clause in the contract every 2 years. We're able to renegotiate in good faith with no more than a 10% increase over the last year.
Okay, I missed that part.
So
Okay.
there is
That sounds better to me then.
an ability.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as the 10 years now makes more sense than just randomly throwing out a number now.
All right. If there's no other discussion, do we have a motion?
I move to forward the proposed theater rental agreement to the October 15th, 2024 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you, David.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Have a good night.
All right. All right, next, item E, Human Services Commission 2025-2026 grant recommendations. And Ms. Wilson.
Good evening, President Kochmar and Chair Walsh. I'm Layla Wilson with the Human Services Department here, and we are requesting. Okay, good evening here. So we are presenting to you this evening our Human General Funds grants recommendations. Just for some background information, funding will be for the period of 25-26. We're estimated at approximately 746,000. Breakdown would be 629,000 to human service grant funds and approximately 117 to the CDBG. We opened our application in March and we closed in April. And we received approximately 113 applications and 84 were submitted on time. Out of those applications, we placed about 3 different strategy areas, addressing basic needs, promoting individual and community safety, promoting services that foster stability and self-sufficiency. Excuse me. And the commission, the Human Services Commissions, we had recommendations at a set maximum request of 50,000. Out of the 34 total, 2 of them have the larger amount, and the breakdown is 30 human service grant funds allocated, and then 4 would be allocated to CDBG, which we will also present at a later time. And then this will be the breakdown of the current amounts for those 3 strategies. And we are requesting that we would move to the City Council on October 15th, and we'll request the approval of the proposed Human Service Commission's 25-26 grant recommendations in the amount of $629,000, including the use or in addition to $117,000 of the CDBG Public Services fundings. Option 2 would be not to approve Human Services General Fund grant recommendation and provide direction to staff. Our recommendation would be option 1. And is there any questions?
I believe on this we'll have some questions for you. Councilmember Asefa Dawson.
Yeah, thank you, Leila. Thank you, Human Services Commission and staff for all the hard work, because I used to work as the Human Services Manager, and I've been on the Human Services Commission, so I know what kind of work goes into this. So I am not here to really negate anything. However, I do have a couple of questions. One is, we have Children's Home Society, the outpatient mental health under Strategy 1. And my question is, should that be under Strategy 2 instead? Or does that have to do with the funding, and that's why we have it here?
It's more so the funding. We put it under Strategy 1 based upon the health aspect that would be provided to the children and their family. I don't know if that's something that maybe we can reassess and change to a different strategy, but that's why that was placed under there.
Because, Strategy 2 says prevention, intervention, and crisis services, so that's why I'm thinking about the mental health aspect of this grant, if it fits under that category. Also acknowledging that there may not be funds in there to cover that. But thank you. And my other question is regarding the communities and schools of Kent. So do they cover Federal Way School District, or how does this work?
They actually do. They provide mentoring services in 3 different school districts between Federal Way, Covington, and Kent. They recently did a name change over the past year and to Communities and Schools of Kent. However, they will be providing in-person and virtual services specifically to Federal Way School District students.
Okay, so it's to all the students then in Federal Way. And then my last question is, for CDBG, you have 117,000?
Approximately, yes.
Yeah, approximately, exactly. So does that include admin? Or is
It's
that-
for direct public services only. That does,
Okay,
I believe it's 20% to admin.
right. So does that come, is that somewhere else?
Yeah, sorry. Our CDBG allocation is in the ballpark of 800,000, so what we can spend specifically on public services is the amount there.
Okay, so you have it somewhere else, and it's not part of this conversation?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I believe that concerning communities and schools, I think that communities and schools, Federal Way and Kent combined a year or so ago, from my understanding.
Yeah.
Just recently, yeah, so, okay. All right, Council President.
I'm just wondering, Leila, Ken Stark was talking in public comment about the fact that we don't have any in-house or for addiction services. And I know that, I believe the county passed was it a bond issue for 1.2 billion, I think, for 6 treatment centers across the county? And I'm just wondering if there's going to be anything in our area for in-house treatment. Do you know anything
I
about that?
would not be able to speak specifically on that. Are you referring to the opioid settlement?
Well, no, the county had, I think King County. Oh, thank you. Have you heard about that?
So far, they're in the application process. As far as I know, there were no projects in Federal Way that were ready to go. There was one that was kind of interested, but as far as I know, they haven't officially applied for it.
So how do we get them to recognize that we have a problem here?
That's a great question.
Yeah,
And that's a whole bigger
Yeah, we have
conversation.
It sounds like that the suggestion that Ken Stark made earlier could help address that kind of situation too, so.
And there's another thing I've always wondered, why don't we have money somewhere for example, if you're going to go to Valley City's behavioral health program, they're right around the corner. And they do have in-house treatment. It may be not that they live there, I'm not sure what their treatment program is, but they do have treatment, but they can't just go find somebody off the street and bring them in. They have to have somebody reach out and bring them in. So why don't we have some kind of a service that provides for reach-out services? Is there anything that we have, has anybody ever requested money for that, or the programs out there? Do they expect that we would hire somebody to do that?
No, excuse me. Some of the programs do provide their own outreach services, and will do referral and resources, or an outsource to other agencies when the capacity is available. But they don't expect us to necessarily do that, if that answers your question.
So the question really would be then, what can you do to get the county to recognize that we have a problem here? They appear to know that we're here because they're bringing people here for our day center. And that's not good enough. We need to have something where if the people are in the day center, that they can have somebody who can help transition them, if they ask for the help. And we don't have that service available. Is that, let's see. Were you going to speak to that, sir?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Greer.
I'm sorry, yes. Again, Chris Greer, Case Community Service Manager here. Yes, so currently I'm meeting with the South King County Planners Groups, which encompasses 16 cities. And we're also having discussions about not only homelessness, but also drug addiction. And currently, as Leila just pointed out, we do have an opioid settlement right now that we're considering. what are we gonna do with that current funding? Currently, it's around, I would say, about $400,000. And we're considering what we're gonna do with that particular fund, which means that it can cover substance abuse, opioids, and other areas. So we are trying to address that.
Yeah, so for example, we've talked repeatedly about the health through housing, that's going to open that building there by 320th Impact Highway. And so, you know, the best part, if they're going to open it, I mean, just make it, you know, a treatment program there. I don't know why they can't seem to do that, but at any rate, might just, if you could get back to us at some point and let us know what there is out there that we can try to get into our area, into our region, for our citizens.
I think that Human Services Commission Chairman Stark may have some comments on that too, if he would go to the mic.
Ken Stark again. Thank you for the opportunity to make another comment. Part of the problem is that the majority of the funding for people who are in poverty that need substance use disorder treatment and mental health treatment, most of that state money now, and federal money, Medicaid, now goes through the 5 health plans. And that the 5 health plans will in fact fund treatment services. But our problem isn't the fact that there isn't money with those health plans to fund the treatment. Our problem is we don't have the facilities. We lack the capacity. And nobody wants to come in and try to buy a building or lease a building without money. The health plans don't pay for capacity building. The state used to do that when I worked for the state years ago, but they don't do that anymore. So the real challenge is, how do we work with the feds, the state, the county, and the cities to build capacity to provide that residential treatment? There is no residential treatment for alcohol, drugs, or mental health in federal way. And there is no building designated for that that's ready to go.
Yeah, no, but didn't Chris Brewer just say that there are going to be 6 regional buildings that were being funded by the county that were being
Linda, turn your mic on.
that there were going to be 6 regional buildings that were going to be built by the county, but there's nothing in federal way. So how do we get them to put something in our area? That's the question, really.
And that is a good question. And I think that the only way that's going to be answered is, as I had suggested earlier, somehow the city, the city staff aren't going to have the clout to get the county to do that. It's going to take the elected officials with the staff and community people to sit down with the county people and the state people and the federal people and say, we want that in our city. Then guess what? You're going to deal with the next problem. And the next problem is NIMBY, not in my backyard. When we try to fund that program, if we can find a building, everybody around that neighborhood is probably going to say, we don't want that in our neighborhood, but we need it in this city somewhere. And we need to get together and pull folks who have the power, pull them together to make that decision. That's the only way you're going to get it. Because I don't have the power to do that alone. Staff don't have the power to do that alone, but you elected officials have a whole lot more clout than we do.
All right, thank you, Ken. First, Councilmember McDaniel.
Right on. Hey, thank you guys all for putting this together. I was fortunate enough to sit at Human Services for the 2 days they went through this, and there was a master class on how to run a meeting, for sure. I'd like to thank you, Ken Stark, because you actually educated me on quite a few things in that class. There's 2 things I'd like to know how the council can fix. When they were in the meetings and deliberations, they were stuck with some hard decisions, and they're required to follow certain regulations and rules that we don't have the same kind of requirements. One of them was topping off the request at $50K. They had to make motions in order to get some of these down to be realistic so that 1 or 2 organizations did not drain the funds themselves. I'd like to see if council or what is required to make it that when someone asks, there is a limitation on how much someone can ask for the grant, so therefore we can make it easier on the people who have to read through these and make those decisions. The other one is quite a few of these organizations are either national or not located in federal way. I'd love to see it on the, I don't know if it's possible or not, but then again, I just want to say it. The rubrics that was used, I'd love to see an advantage given to people who are located in Federal Way. It is a point-based system, and I'd like to see an advantage or a point given to locate people who are located in Federal Way to make it easier on these people when they do make the decisions. Now, with that said, my responsibility is for the citizens of this city. It is not for the people looking for services. So when I looked at it and listened to them, I allowed them to deliberate, to talk about stuff. There is stuff that they did not want to pass, but they have no rights to say no to. Or some of them were objective to it, but there was no real good justification. It wasn't bias-based. I am biased. The Day Center, when I drive by it, is not a good place at the moment. We've been open for, I think they said 15 or 16 years. It opened with the greatest possible idea for helping people. It is not living up to it. You may say they're not responsible for what happens in the parking lot, but they are. It is the people that are serving who are out there. They said they would get staff to clean it up. I've driven by almost every night for the last week. Last night, after council, I drove by there. There must have been at least another 10 carts and 20 people passing out on the side of the roads, in the roads, all over the place. So I know how we'd like not to change what they recommend, but I am not about funding that one for another 2 years. They can find money for somewhere else if they want to keep it going. I'm not saying shut them down. I'm just saying as a city, not to fund them. We've had multiple residents come up and ask for that. No one else has asked for anything else about this kind of stuff. No one's asked to give money, to take money away, anything like that. But that's the one thing they've asked to actually have us do, is not fund that operation. I would love to see that money go to the Orion Industries, and I'd love to see it go to the LINK program. Things that are helping people get back into jobs and trying to help youth who are actually trying to make a difference for their life. Now, on top of that, I sat by a guy at the Valley City meeting the other day, and his job, Richard, is intake and outpatient for Valley Cities. They have 2 locations, Seattle and Kent. Seattle's got about 30 in-beds, 30 detox and 40 in-bed patients. Kent has 15 detox and 15 in-bed locations. The problem they have, though, is funding like everybody else. They're getting paid for 3 days of detox. Fentanyl takes 14 to 15 days to detox. So right there, you're already in a money issue. He said only 16% of the people who will come out of that will go into long-term treatment. Those who do go into long-term treatment, which is 21 days, 95% of them will move into housing. They asked me about the location across the street that is almost finished, that does have 16 beds. That's an opportunity for us. I have not responded to them. I will send it to you guys to respond to them now. But there is some opportunities out there that if we so choose to go down this path, there is an opportunity right across the street. So if we're going to talk about it, let's do some action about it. I personally, like I said, do not want to fund them. I would like to see the money go into the Orion Industries and the Children of Youth and Justice Center. I'd like to see the money split amongst the 2 of those, and everything else I agree with, and I thought was point on, and I really, like I said, enjoyed watching you guys deliberate and discuss and come to a conclusion on how you guys voted. It was phenomenal and very educational. But like I said, if you guys want my vote on this one, I will not support that. I would have the money go to those 2 organizations. Thank you.
Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. As Councilmember McDaniel said, we have a building across the street that we should be using, taking advantage of. And I know we've talked to staff about that, and not this staff that's here, but other staff that's over there. And I don't know that there's that much interest in that, but I was watching a documentary on housing in Seattle, and they were talking about people needing addiction services and the fact that they don't even have those available in Seattle. So if they're not available in Seattle, they're not going to be available in South King County. It is certainly a huge problem. But we have a building across the street, and I think we should be taking advantage of it and finding the money to either finish it up so that it's suitable and it can be used, and getting staff in there to treat people who need addiction services. So I have some questions on Mary's Place. I've looked at the application just rather quickly. Can you tell me how many families from Federal Way are served in Mary's Place?
I do have that information. It is not on hand at this moment. I can get that for you.
Okay.
I do have it readily available. I just don't have it on hand at this moment. My apologies.
All right. Anu is being, they're getting money out of the CDBG Public Services. Is that what I'm seeing?
Yes, we typically like to keep CDBG funds with agencies that have a history and knowledge of how to operate CDBG. So yes, they would be allocated that amount.
The day center, and I'm looking for where the day center is.
On the first page.
No, I have the applications in front of me that
Oh.
I just got this afternoon. The day center, I was really impressed last year, the year before, when I went through there, of the medical clinic that's in there. I think that's really impressive. I wondered who gets to use the medical center that's in there, seeing King County Public Health is right next door to them. But it says that they are offering a connection to addiction treatment services with a focus on limiting infectious disease spread and supporting individuals experiencing homelessness or housing instability. So that's what it says a medical clinic is doing. So can you explain the connection to addiction treatment services and how successful they are to getting their clients into that?
To my knowledge, the medical services are in connection with case management, so they provide holistic wraparound support services, including medical, housing, basic needs. So, yeah.
I'd like more information on that. How many people they got into treatment? Because it says that's what they're.
For the specific amount who have received treatment, I would have to follow up with them, which we are planning to meet with them tomorrow. I can gather that information specifically. I know within the last 2 quarters, between January and August, they have provided services to over 1,500 persons with basic needs services. So they are utilizing the showers there, kitchen facilities, laundry facilities, case management that is provided. Between first and second quarter, they have housed 2 persons, have provided assistance with getting them permanent housing and employment services. So those are 2 successes that they have done within quarter 1 and quarter 2. But I can gather additional data on that specifically.
Most specifically on the medical clinic in there, since they write that in their application. Also, the family that was served this year at the day center with the 3 children, I believe it says that there are 3 children. Was that family being served by Fusion, or did they not have housing at Fusion?
That I'm unaware of.
You what?
I am unaware of.
And also, I asked, I sent an email to the mayor's office yesterday, and I haven't seen a response yet. I too drive by the day center often, and I'm wondering if the folks that are gathered outside in the parking lot and across the street, if they're getting services at the day center, or if they've been refused services and that's why they're not inside when the day center is opened. Do you know anything about that?
They are not refused or declined our services. If the staff is on site during their business hours, any persons are welcome to receive services. If they're loitering outside during business hours, they are encouraged and to go elsewhere. After business hours, when there's no staff available, unfortunately, there has been some issues, which staff is currently trying to find additional ways to fix those problems. But services are offered to every person who enters through those doors. They can't force them to take services, however, they are offered. And if they're not utilizing services during business hours, then they are encouraged to go elsewhere.
Okay, I was just wondering if that's why they were hanging around outside instead of going inside. So I'm really interested in Mary's Place as to how many families came from Federal Way and what the $50,000 is going to cover. And I thought it was interesting that a lot of these places that applied for money got as much money as they asked for. I thought that was great. So before the meeting, I'm sure I'll be sending you some more questions that I'd like specific answers for, if that's okay. Do I send them to you? Or-
You are more than welcome to
Okay.
send to me. That's highly encouraged. We did want to request that these be submitted over to the October 15th City Council for approval on the public hearing and the final recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Asefa Dawson.
Yeah, thank you. And I just wanted to address Paul's concern, and I appreciate what you're saying in terms of the Federal Day Center. And based on what we heard and what we see, I think having the facility is very important because like we heard earlier, where can they go for these services? However, to your point, I think keeping the funding and maybe putting that requirement in their agreement or MOU would be the best way to go about it. And if they don't fulfill that, then possibly we could either take the money away. The other point is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but these are different strategic, one was strategy 1 and the other one's out of strategy 3. So to put those monies in Orion, when we're already funding them at the requested level, same with ANU, which we're funding at the requested level.
May I interject on that piece
Sure.
just a little bit? We can reduce funds. Agencies are allowed to request a certain amount. We can go lower than that. However, we can only submit the amount that they request. So if they requested 30,000, we can't go over 30.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to.
Okay, yeah, just
that's-
to clarify that,
yeah,
yes.
That's the point I'm trying to make. They asked for 36, and they're getting 36, and the other one, ANU, asked for 15, and they're getting 15. So they're in different strategies as well as different, the amounts are not there. So I would suggest counteract by saying that let's have an additional requirement in the MOU and see how they do with that, and then maybe make it contingent upon meeting those requirements. But I wouldn't want to not fund them just because they do provide services. It's just that they don't meet the requirement outside of their facility, and I really am in favor of keeping the organization, but making it more responsible for what happens in our city. Thank you.
Councilmember Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to address Paul's concern about the day center, because when I was in charge of DSHS office here in Federal Way, we often send our staff to that day center to help out. My staff went there once a week on Wednesday, and we provide case management and we process the application for benefits and all that. The day center do provide a critical service to homeless people. As the Chair of Human Services stated before, when you're homeless and you don't have anywhere else to go. Now, remember, some of those homeless people do have jobs, and they need those critical services so that, they can change, they can brush the teeth, they can, do all the hygiene stuff so that they can go to work. Those are very critical. I stated from this dais many times before, I was once homeless by definition. And look at where I am now. We have to recognize that the services provided by the day center is critical. However, I do agree that some of those homeless people or substance abuse individual create issue for that area. But those are the two separate issues. We need to deal with those issues, right? By not funding their grant request, I think we are not helping some of the legitimate homeless individual. So I would encourage council to vote in favor of continue the funding, and then we'll try to figure out what we can do to address all the issues created by some individual, and not just because of those individuals, and then we shut this thing down. I think that is something we need to do. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember McDaniel.
Thanks for the education, not being able to transfer the money. Does not change my mindset on this one. We've told them multiple times to do stuff. They haven't done it. They say they do it, they give us lip service, nothing happens from it. I don't like the idea of giving money and saying we want to take it away if you don't do something. We've told them what to do, they don't pay attention, they don't care. You can say it's not them, it's the people they're serving. How many of those people they're serving are actually federal residents? One of the requirements that Human Services has is to find the groups that handle the most people in our city. I'm not responsible for people who come outside my city for services in my city. I only care about the people in my city. Does it sound rude and crude to a lot of people? I don't care. I care about my city and my citizens and residents in the city. Have you guys ever gone to any of the businesses around there and talked to them? I have actually talked to them. There's businesses that have moved next door. There are people who are scared to go to their garbage at night to throw their stuff away. There are people who won't take their kids to the daycare across the street because they don't want to see it. When we tell them that they can't be in that neighborhood, all they do is walk across the street. And the daycare is like, you know what? Daystone doesn't worry about it. They're not on their property anymore. That blight is still in the city. That destruction is still in that city. The homeless camp across the street is still there. So when we keep saying we want to give them a chance, we're going to work with them and stuff like that, we have. And they did not care. So I understand what you guys are saying. I understand wanting to help people, but I care more about my citizens than I do them at the moment. And that's just how I feel. Thank you.
Councilmember Honda.
Did Fusion apply for any funding?
I believe, yes, they did. However, they did not meet the scoring to be on this specific one. We do fund them in, with some of our CDBG funds. But for this specific application, they did not score high enough to be placed on this one.
Have they been funded before through this?
I believe, no, they're still funded through CDBG, and we provide our severe weather shelter through them, for them.
Yes, but that's a different,
No, to answer your question, no.
I mean, the severe weather shelter, I appreciate that they do that, but that's not providing housing for homeless families.
Yes, they requested a continuum of care application, which again did not score high enough based upon our commissioners.
Okay, so it's, yeah, I really want more information on Mary's Place then. So in the applications, it lists where these organizations got funding before, like Auburn and Bellevue and Burien and Covington and whatever. Do you have the amounts that some of these cities might have already awarded for this year?
We do have access to that.
Could
I don't
we-
have it here at this moment.
Could we
though.
get that before the next meeting?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was also going to ask about Fusion as well. And so are there things that Fusion could do in the future to score better? Because I think that Fusion is one of the most valuable resources in the community. And
They
I
are
think that
a great provider and agency with our city. We provide technical assistance throughout the process to answer any questions that any of the agencies may have, walk them through the application process. So at that time, if they reapply during the next application cycle, It's a possibility if they reach out to us, if they have any questions specifically, but we can't go to them and say, this is gonna make your application better without them reaching out to us and providing general advice or insight.
Yeah, it's, with the scoring, I mean, I previously was on the Human Services Commission as well. And, I have some questions about how the scoring works. I think that the way it's scored isn't necessarily, the scoring doesn't always make sense to me. And I think that perhaps, I don't know whether there's anything that we can do to, I don't know the process in depth enough to know if there's anything we can do to improve that scoring system, to help assure that the right nonprofit score appropriately. So anyway, that's one question I have. With the day center, if we were to approve this for the day center, I think that there would need to be some very tight strings attached, and I don't know I wish the legal was here to be able to advise us on what could be done to tighten up those strings, because, I mean, they need to, obviously, what's happening now is not working. Councilmember,
Yeah,
Council
I was going to
President.
make a suggestion.
Yes.
Because we're getting into the weeds on all of this, and our Human Services Commission has gone through a long, hard process trying to come up with their suggestions, and I'm very hesitant to go against what the Human Services have decided on. One suggestion, though, is if we have a question about one particular project, we could pull that out, approve the rest, and then we have that funding available. But my suggestion really would be have some people from the day center come to this council, to a council meeting for like a come to Jesus meeting, and talk to them about, because obviously we're not getting through.
Yeah.
And we're, us not approving this money is not going to shut them down. That's not going to be what happens. But, pulling the permit would shut them down. But we don't know for sure, we don't know if our council would agree to that. But what we do need to do is move forward. We're having a public hearing right now. We could move forward, move the rest of the money, approve it, forward to the next council meeting, hold this one day center back until we have further discussion on that. I don't know if that works.
Okay. With that, if we were to do that, would we, in the motion now, would we need to carve that out, or would we?
I would like to make a suggestion, is that we move it forward without recommendation to the council meeting on the 15th. That way, we're not, huh? Well, if someone wants to, but, 7 council members will be voting on the entire thing, so if as a committee, we just move it forward so we can have the public hearing at the October 15th meeting, without recommendation, then it's still going forward, and every council member will need to make up their own mind.
And that would be fine. My suggestion might be that we invite the day center folks to come and hear what we have to say, and hear what they have to say. I mean, literally, this isn't working.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I have some
that's fine.
concerns on some of these anyway that
Yeah.
I need more information on. So I don't want to make a recommendation tonight. I haven't had enough time with this notebook. But I wanted to go forward to the October 15th meeting as planned. I just we don't have to make a recommendation. We just forward it without a recommendation.
Yeah, and I think that for the October 15th meeting, we should ask day center representatives to be here and to be available to answer questions.
I'd also like updated on the cart ordinance, because I see people driving by there who should be making stops to talk to people about their carts, and there's nothing but carts all over the place. So if we're gonna have that conversation, I'd like to be refreshed on the ordinance and what actually is supposed to be happening with those carts.
Well, the ordinance is, it needs to be in the public right of way, and if it's off the public right of way, we can't do anything. But the sidewalk's the public right of way, yes. So I guess that if we could have a,
A motion?
well, first off, ask those who are on the agenda setting meeting for the council meeting to.
You can just move it forward with
It's
that
going-
recommendation.
Yeah.
Public hearing.
It's
Yeah,
going for
yeah.
a public hearing anyway
Yeah.
on October
So,
15th.
But specifically to ask
Yeah.
for the date center representatives to be here and also
Yeah.
a report on the shopping cart ordinance
If
enforcement.
we can, we'll do that.
Okay,
Yes,
all
sir.
right. In that case, are there any other comments or questions before we have a motion? Okay, do we have a motion?
I move to forward the proposed Human Services Commission 2025-2026 grant recommendations without recommendation to the October 15th, 2024 agenda for public hearing and approval.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, we should have an interesting meeting on the 15th. And next, let me get back up to the, all right, report on the PAC operations. And, yes, Ms. Winters.
Good evening. Give me 1 second. Oh, that's the end. Good evening, Chair Walsh, Council President Kochmar, and council members. I am Stacia Winters. I'm the General Manager of the Federal Way Performing Arts and Event Center, and I am here tonight to present on the PAC's operations. Tonight's presentation will specifically be about our August events and operations. In August 2024, we had 16 total usage days. This is compared to 11 in 2023. Some of the events we had in August, we had our first 2024 wedding, which was a fabulous Indian wedding. It was really beautiful. We also had a Filipino coming of age celebration. That was a really cool event and an exciting event for my staff to be a part of and learn about that culture and those traditions a little bit more. We also had the Hanwari Garden fundraising concert with the Federal Way Korean American Association. That was a beautiful concert and the performers were amazing. The Federal Way Public School District also had 2 events in August. They had their administrative retreat as well as their welcome back to school breakfast that all the teachers come to before they go into trainings. And one of the biggest events we had in August was the Missoula Children's Theater Camp with Arts Foundation Federal Way. I'll be going a little bit more in detail about that specific event later in the presentation. Our total attendance for the month of August was 2,355. And 239 of that attendance was paid tickets. We did not have a lot of ticketed events in August. For the revenue breakdown for August, for ticket revenue, we had $20,000, $751. Rental revenue, $32,473. Facility fees, we had $617. And food and beverage revenue was $53,627 for a gross of $107,468. And we are still on track to hit our projected revenues of about $1.9 million in revenue for the year. The year-to-date financial overview, total revenue so far has been $1,053,034, with total event expenses of $812,323 and operating expenses of $929,206 for a net investment in the PAC of $688,495. And onto the event highlight for the Missoula Children's Theater Camp. This was a really exciting event we did in collaboration with the Arts Foundation Federal Way. This was a week-long camp that 63 students were able to take part in for the entire week. We had about 68 students show up for the audition. These were children from grades 1 to grades, I believe our oldest was about a sophomore in high school, freshman or sophomore. So 68 students showed up for the audition. A couple couldn't take part because of prior commitments, so 63 were cast in the show. We also had additional workshops on top of that an additional 42 students that weren't able to be there for the whole week were able to come and still take part in. Out of all of these participants, 90% of the participants had never performed in a live performance before or on a professional stage. So this was a first time really unique experience for these students. 30 of them were also from outside of Federal Way. Their parents and families hung out at the PAC all day while they were in rehearsals. They also went to museums, parks, stores, restaurants. A number of them talked about the Bonsai Museum. So that was really fun and exciting to hear about the other things that they were doing in Federal Way. This entire thing was supported and funded by Arts Foundation Federal Way. They were an incredible partner through this, and because of their participation and their support, we were able to provide the entire camp, all of the workshops, and all of their families were able to attend the show completely for free. The 3 p.m. show, we had about 235 people attend that show, and 247 attended our evening show. All the participants were able to really take place and experience what it was like to be in a show from start to finish. They did a live audition for the directors of the show with music, movement, and line recitation. They had 4+ hours of rehearsal each day, both on and off stage. And then the workshops included an improv lesson, beginning acting lessons for the younger students in grades 1 and 2, as well as a behind-the-scenes workshop that participants were able to learn about set design, costume design, lighting design, all of those behind-the-scenes things. They also had dress and tech rehearsals. One of the stage managers, she was an 8th grader. She actually was very interested in light design, and she worked closely with our technical staff at the PAC all week to design the lights, program them into the board, and she ran all the lights during the shows. So that was a really unique and fun opportunity for her. And then, of course, performing, how to put on their costumes and makeup, stay quiet backstage, especially the little, 7-year-olds learned a lot that week in how to sit still and put on their costumes and not throw their hat across the stage, as well as what to do when you forget a line or how to perform with a live piano. That was something that was fun to watch throughout the week as they got better at not speeding up and really staying in time with the piano. They also got a cast party where all the participants received a t-shirt and a full-size poster that they could sign for each other's as a memento. We also kept a couple posters that we had all of the children sign, and that's going to be on display at the PAC in the talent hallway as well for future camps. And this is a little video recap that we put together.
We hear he is a whiz of a whiz, if ever a whiz there was, if ever a whiz there was. Find a way to get there someday, over the rainbow and free.
Oh. Thank you. Some of the feedback we got, I did get some feedback from the Missoula Children's Theater staff. They said that their week in Federal Way was one of the best ones they had all summer. They said that the talent and the hard work from the students in Federal Way was something that they saw, especially in the summer. They said sometimes it's hard to really get the kids to be focused on what they're doing, but they said all of the kids this summer were exceptionally focused and just really wanted to do a good job and learn as much as they could, which was wonderful to hear. Some of the anonymous feedback we got from parent surveys was it was the best run camp I've ever encountered, fabulous all around. It was very organized and lots of fun. It was very well done. What an incredible opportunity for children to participate in theater and for their family and friends to attend the performances for free. I appreciate the inclusion and accessibility this gives to our community. It was an amazing experience. Please come back next summer, which we are already working with Arts Foundation and Missoula Children's Theater to come back again. A few other ones that I wanted to read off as well were from Karen Otto, who's a parent of one of the students. She said, our 9-year-old had a wonderful experience participating in Missoula Children's Theater through the Arts Foundation Federal Way. She was able to attend a 5-day summer theater camp with real stage experience, knowledgeable and kind directors, and the opportunity to learn more about theater and meet new friends and make memories along the way. She was beaming throughout the entire play, and she later said her face felt sore from smiling so much. What a gift as a parent to see your child experience the thrill of theater. One of the participants, Autumn Broski, I believe she's 9. I didn't write that down, but I'm pretty sure she was 9. It was an experience that I've never had before. I got to meet different parts of myself that I've never met before. It was a really fun experience and so awesome. And then on to the Oakview Group incentive progress. For attendance, we are 58% of our goal at the current, as of August 31, 2024. 20% of our goal of community events. I don't know what is behind this little. Let me see if I can move that. Usage days, perfect. 62% of our goal on usage days. For revenue generation, food and beverage, we are 74% of our goal. Theater rental, we are 119% of our goal. Event-based rental, 79% of our goal. Ticket revenue, 52% of our goal. For event types, these are specific, there's a specific number that we're supposed to do every year. For weddings, we are at 25% of our goal. Banquets and meetings, we're at 50% of our goal. Nonprofit events, we are at 150% of our goal. And arts for youth, we are at 67% of our goal. And then some of our upcoming events that I wanted to highlight. On October 17th, we have the MSC Helps Luncheon at the PAC in our meeting space. We are also kicking off the Arts for Youth 2024 to 25 season with Pegasus and the Stories of the Stars. This is going to be a program for kindergarten through 3rd graders. The Symphony is also kicking off its season on Sunday, October 13th. That is this Sunday at 4:30 p.m. And Jet City's Chorus is also kicking off their season next week on October 19th. And then a couple of the main stage performances that are coming as well in the next few weeks. John Hyatt is on October 27th. It is completely sold out right now, but I'm hoping the artist will release us a couple more tickets that we can get out to the public. And Black Jacket Symphony is on November 2nd. This year they are performing Elton John's Madman Across the Water. And the Kingdom Choir is on November 19th, 2024. This is a nationally critically acclaimed gospel choir that is coming through. And I can take any questions now.
All right, Councilmember Seffa-Dotson.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all this with us. And I would love to see this at the regular council meeting, actually, at least just this portion that you just shared with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
The video.
Huh?
The video.
The video, yeah, and just a little snippet of this program. And if so, then on your slide, there's an error. You said 60% was their first time or never had.
90%.
90%, okay.
Yes.
On your slide, it says they have.
Oh,
So
thank
you might want to
I will
change
fix that,
if you
yes.
present it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So what do we do then? Talk to Stephanie or? Oh, Linda, you will, okay. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
All right.
That's at the October 15th one, just so I can put it on my calendar. Thank you.
Councilmember McDaniels.
Yeah, I really like you guys' presentation. You guys are getting way better on it.
Thank you.
A couple questions. On one part, it says attendance, and it says 239 paid tickets.
Yep.
Then below with the events, it's got a lot more ticket numbers. What is the difference between the tickets below and the paid tickets, the two differences? It'd be page 44, but I don't know if that's helpful or not.
Okay, so the biggest thing is paid versus free or complimentary tickets. So like Hanwari, they gave out some free tickets.
Okay.
That'll be the difference.
And then the 55%, is that what does the 55 and the 53% mean?
So that is something that you guys had asked for when I first started. That's the percentage of the house. So how many seats were available and how many were filled. Those are both free and sold tickets. That's how many people showed up and filled. 55% of the house. Does that make sense?
It does, but 30, you had 364 is 55%, and 482 is only 53%.
Yeah,
Difference.
we didn't fully open the entire
Oh, okay.
venue for that, which I did not write down. Usually I try to put half house there.
No problem.
But yes, that wasn't a full, we blocked off some of the seats for that event.
And then my last question, the Giant Hyatt, you said you guys have sold out. What was the ticket number that we've got for a sellout for that particular item?
That one, I don't
Ballpark?
have that number off the top of my head. I believe they are at about 368.
Really?
That's not right. 668
Okay.
is the correct number.
That sounds
Okay.
better.
And they have 20 to 30 some tickets on hold for the artist and for the promoter.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Honda.
So on the Children's Theater, 30% of participants were from outside of Federal Way.
Yes.
How far outside of Federal Way were they from?
I don't have that directly on me. I could pull some of that. I know we had a couple from Kent. We didn't have anybody as far as like Seattle. We had a couple from like Kent, Tacoma, a couple from Fife.
So, since this was sponsored by the the
Arts
arts
Foundation.
program, yeah. Had we had more children from the Federal Way, the city of Federal Way, would they have taken priority over a space?
So specifically, and part of why I think we got as many participants, we did do a social media boost on this. We decided in a fairly short term, about a month out, that we wanted to try and do this and that it was worth it. So we were concerned about if we would even get enough kids to fill the part. So we did a social media boost to push it out a little bit to make sure we had enough kids. In the future, now that we know that there is enough interest, we probably would not do that.
Okay.
The way that the audition works, though, is that Missoula Children's Theater does just choose. There isn't, unless we did like a pre-registration, there would be no way for us to prioritize Federal Way students. But again, we don't plan to advertise as wide. That was just because it was the first year and we wanted to make sure we had enough kids to take care of, to do the program.
So they would just take as many kids that showed up and give them a part?
Correct, yep. So there is a chance that some kids may get turned away. We actually had it was like 280 students who had signed up. We did kind of an initial sign up to see if there was even interest. We had about 280 students sign up, so we thought we were gonna have a huge turnout. Only 68 showed up. Next year, if we do end up having more show up, Arts Foundation is open to also funding another full week, either during the school year or another summer program, to try and make sure that we can fill the need.
Okay. And so does each performance at the PAC have a different amount of seats that are considered sold out?
Correct. So we can do a couple different things. We can do a half house, a true half house, which is we just don't open the balcony. A number of our smaller shows that think they're going to do 200 to 300 tickets, we try to do that to make it more intimate. We can do a full house, or sometimes specific artists or promoters just want to block off rows or sections, either because they need to put equipment there or because they want to keep people as close to the stage as possible.
Okay. And I wanted to tell you that I've had 3 different people reach out to me who have had events at the PAC before and are having events this year at the PAC and feel that they're being listened to.
Great.
And that you're great to work with and that you were a great decision to come to Federal Way, and they're very happy that you're there. So
Well, thank you.
very
I
much.
appreciate that.
I just have one question. Missoula Children's Theater, I mean, you know, you think Missoula, Montana. Well, what is Missoula Children's Theater?
Yes, I actually meant to talk a little bit about that, so thank you. So it is actually based out of Missoula, Montana. They are a touring company. They're based in Missoula, and they tour all over the country, and they put on these performances. Each camp or show comes with 2 directors, one that is the true director and one that you kind of saw is in the cast with the students and plays a part. So they come in, they bring all of the set, they bring everything, they provide the 2 directors, and they run the entire camp. So it's based out of Missoula, Montana. I actually did it when I was a child in Wyoming, so it was really special to bring it here. They tour anywhere from like 7 to 15 shows every year, and they do it all year round. They have, during the school year, they can do programs that are just rehearsals after school, or they can come in and do a full summer camp like they did with us.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
It's a wonderful program.
Thank you.
I actually have a follow-up on that one.
Yes.
Would that kind of group be eligible for LTAC funding?
That is interesting. I don't know the answer to that. Autumn may have some,
You can get back to me if not, I'm just.
okay, yeah.
That group could certainly apply for LTAC funding.
I know there's
They-
no guarantees, but.
Yeah, the specific thing about this group, similar to the PAC purchasing any other show, is they don't necessarily have costs associated because we're paying to bring them in.
Oh.
So it would be
Yeah.
more that the Arts Foundation would apply to LTAC for this type of program to come in. But that might be a challenge just because it's only bringing in local residents and we can show that it's primarily serving Federal Way, not necessarily outside of Federal Way.
Okay.
But,
Just curious, thank you.
yeah.
All right. There's nothing, Stacia, thank you very much for the
Thank you.
report, and appreciate the job that you're doing there. It
Thank
is
you so
greatly,
much.
greatly appreciated and
Thank
and
you
a
all
great
for your
report.
support.
Okay. I think that brings us to the end of the agenda. If there is nothing else, our next meeting, we will not be meeting in November, since most of us will be in Tampa, if Tampa still exists then.
Could I ask for something to be on the agenda next? I would like to have this committee talk about the wind phone at Dumas Bay that the Parks Commission has talked about and we have talked about before, and we supported it before. But I'd like to, I think we need to have a discussion about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
John or Mary, can you put that on the agenda, please? And so our next meeting will be December 10th. And so, and basically, anything that comes out of that meeting will be going forwarded to the first meeting of January. And if there is nothing else, we stand adjourned.